Since man first saw the sea, it has challenged him. For thousands of years, he has taken food from the sea, traveled over its surface, feared its power, and been fascinated by its mysteries. But only in the last few years has man begun to study the life of the sea systematically, straining from different layers and different waters its strange inhabitants. This investigation is not just to find new ways to get more food from the sea, nor is it just to classify and count marine life. It is something more basic. These biologists study the life in the sea in order to learn more about the general properties of all life on the earth. On land, green plants are the basic source of food for all animal life. Here, huge nets strain the sunlit surface water for the basic food of all marine life, plankton. This ship is a floating classroom for marine biologists. Its study area is the sea. Its subject is everything that lives in the sea. Its students come from all parts of the world, and their curiosity is as great as the complexity of the subject itself. A special dredge scrapes the ocean floor for animals that creep and crawl, and for plants and animals that permanently attach themselves to the bottom of the sea. Here, under a heavy cold mist, or under a warming sun, specimens of life dredged up from specific, predetermined locations are examined by the marine biologists. Some of these young people are students. Some are research biologists working on special projects, and some are teachers. Each time a catch is pulled from the water, everyone is interested. The study of life in the sea is the study of how animals are equipped to survive in a watery environment, how they reproduce, what plants live in the water, how the food chain in the sea functions. Some marine expeditions are short, and the ship returns to harbor before dark. Others may last longer than a year and cover the distance around the earth. But collecting is only the beginning. It will be in laboratories that most of the drama of discovery will take place. The specimens are placed in holding tanks and later transferred to saltwater tanks at the marine station on shore. These holding tanks keep the animals until time for the experiments. For scientific purposes, it is essential that the water not be contaminated, even by contact with metal. So here, an elaborate system of glass pipes brings seawater up from the ocean to the laboratory buildings themselves. A modern marine station is a complex of specialized laboratories. Research projects sponsored by universities, industries, and the government are conducted all year round, both in the laboratories and on the oceans. The beach represents the boundary for the study of marine life. Small boats are used to collect and examine the plants and animals of the shore and tide pools. How are the organisms that live near the shore different from those that live in the open sea? How are they alike? Even plankton near the shore are collected for later study and comparison by using smaller plankton nets. Direct observations are made in the water itself. A mask and snorkel permit this scientist to make periodic observations of what a group of sea stars feed on, and how much and when they eat. This is the beginning of science. Observation of repeated events. Specimens are collected for detailed experiments back in the laboratory. The problem has been defined. What relationship is there between feeding and reproduction? The difficulty is to set up a series of experiments that will actually reveal information about such a relationship, if it exists. The internal organs of a sea star are examined to determine when growth occurs. Experimentation is perhaps the most difficult part of scientific investigation. For no matter how well thought out the experiment is, no matter how carefully it has been executed, it is still possible that no new information will be obtained. This particular project will take an entire year. Precise measurements are made and carefully recorded. Changes in weight of the organs during different seasons are compared. This information is checked against the results of previous investigators. It is necessary to keep informed of other projects which may be relevant. Slowly, a pattern emerges. Correlations are checked and rechecked, and a tentative theory is developed. Some animals may be flown into the station for special experiments. Marine biologists are constantly in touch with scientists at other stations around the world. Here, a visiting English biologist cooperates on a project with his American colleagues. The field of biology is expanding rapidly, and more sophisticated tools are coming into use. The equipment available to the marine biologist is better and more elaborate than ever before. Studies of biological functions are made with different animals for particular reasons. In this project, an octopus is used because its kidney functions very much like man's, and because it can easily be reached through the animal's open cavity. Tubes are inserted at the top and bottom of the kidney. These will be used to take samples of blood before and after being filtered by the kidney. A new understanding of the functions of this vital organ may result from the studies made of these collected samples. Marine botanists may use underwater railroad cars for their experiments. Here, plants normally found at one level in the sea are moved to another level to study the effects different pressures and different light characteristics have on them. At present, man takes only about 1% of his food from the sea. Farming of the oceans, like farming of the land, will produce greater and greater amounts and kinds of food. And research into how this can be done will contribute to man's well-being. A doctorate problem in embryology involves the sea urchin. A mild electric shock causes the animal to spawn. The question is, what happens to these eggs after fertilization that prevents their deterioration and instead causes active cleavage and development toward a new individual? The first visible event in the egg at fertilization is a series of surface changes. To find out what these changes have to do with the normal development of the fertilized egg, this experiment causes the eggs and sperm to interact while under high pressure. After exposure to this pressure, the fertilized eggs will be removed and allowed to develop. From time to time during the development of the eggs, samples are observed and compared with normally fertilized eggs. The outer layer of a normal egg is missing in the experimental egg, and the cells tend to separate from one another. A later stage of a normal embryo is compared with an experimental embryo, and again, significant changes are evident. As often happens with scientific studies, more questions are raised than are answered, and so other references are consulted and plans for new studies are begun. Here is an even more elaborate project. All hearts have special cells that rhythmically stimulate the heart muscle to contract. These are called pacemaker cells, and they determine the frequency of the heartbeat. The heart of the sea squirt is ideal to study because it is only one cell layer thick, just 1/1000th of an inch. With precision equipment, the biologist experiments with the pacemaker cells of this tunicate. As he watches the rhythmic beat of this heart, he cannot help but add something to our knowledge of the heart in all living creatures. With every tool they have or can devise, marine biologists search for new insights into that unique condition called living. The skills of marine biologists are as varied as the projects in which they're involved. Each discovery requires the exchange of the new information with other scientists, and reports and papers must be published. Every day, biologists find themselves closer and closer to the most basic answers of biology. Their research takes them into the field of biophysics and biochemistry. No other field of study is in such ferment, such revolution as the biological sciences. Truly on a frontier, the marine biologist is able to combine the excitement of intellectual discovery with the excitement and exhilaration of physical activity. The questions are enormous. Here is the last unexplored area of our Earth. On every ocean, nets slip from the decks of research vessels from every maritime nation. The secrets pulled up from these waters may one day answer such a basic question as, what is life? Marine biologists look to the sea for answers because this, they believe, is where life began.